Yeah.
So the sermon I'll take off after the children.
So I was gonna say, you don't
If I come in I'm kind of a box. Okay, I've got the data, so I just want well, I can't see sure else. We're going to break it right after the
Oh, we're probably not going to be here for the last year.
let it be great rest.
What about two? Anyway. Well, it seems to be working well to just make sure you have that down here for that one space. Yeah.
But he's...
There she is. She only did exactly yet. Okay. Choir. A little Gaelic tune to start the top of the morning. Please join me on 38, Morning is Broken.
Good morning. For those of you who think I look ridiculous, I feel you. I should tell you, as a minister, never forget to wear green on St. Patrick's Day, because somebody is going to solve that problem for you. With the human version of the cone of shame. And that is what has happened here. So, Bob Cook, I don't know if he's still here, wore this the entire first service, and then he solved my problem for me as he was leaving. And I guess he's gone now, but I'm told that I felt like I have to wear it for a while because he was going to put it on his pug when he got home. And it's such a kind gesture, such a sacrifice that now I'm going to wear it. But I'm going to remove it for the sermon so that you can take me seriously, okay? But I do appreciate the gesture, and happy St. Patrick's Day, yeah. I thought it was yesterday. I walked in the St. Patty's Day parade with Bree and Beggs, and so I assumed I wore my green yesterday. I thought I was good, you know. Just my luck. Well, I do want to welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Also want to begin by welcoming all that you bring with you to this space, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes those of you who hear me say this every Sunday, as well as those who may be hearing it for the first time this morning. And of course it includes those who are streaming with us this morning too. So welcome to one and all. Before you greet one another, I wanted to let you know about a couple of things. One, some of you may have received an email saying that our heat's not working today. Our heat's not working today. Although it's about 3 degrees off of what it normally is in here, so I think we're in good shape for our second service. But I do apologize. We'll try to get that repaired. There's some parts that need to come in. And then also wanted to let you know that there's going to be a listening session today at 12:30, taking place, I think, in the chapel, and they're going to have lunch for kids and kid-friendly food. It is on multi-generational connections and beyond. Dr. Isabel Call is going to help lead that, and it's also sponsored by our Spokane Alliance and Engagement teams. So that again is happening 12:30 after our services today. So let's take a few moments to greet one another. I hope that you will say hello to those that you know and look forward to seeing each Sunday. And as always, I hope that you will make some new friends today. And if you are joining us more recently, please don't be shy. Thank you. Thank you so much. As always, there's going to be more opportunity to visit after our service, so I do hope you'll stay around for that. Let's go ahead and move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
The inherent worth and dignity of everyone. It's our first principle, the one easiest to remember and recite, and arguably the one from which all the others stem. And it's probably the hardest one to hold. Believing that everyone is equally good, equally beautiful, equally worthy of love, and that we don't have to do anything to earn or deserve that love, unites us across distance, nationality, and faith tradition. It allows us to see ourselves in the other, to see our loved ones in the other. And that means when horrific things happen, such as on Friday in Christchurch, New Zealand, we are stricken at our core. Because yes, it's hard to see worth and dignity in a murderer, but it's also impossible not to see the worth and dignity in the victims. They're half a world away, and we grieve as if they were our neighbors, because they are equally good, equally beautiful, equally worthy of love. So this first principle of ours, this foundational idea, challenges us in two ways. Sometimes it's because our hearts are too small. Other times it's because they are so, so big.
Well, it's actually starting to look a little bit like spring. If you look out the window, you can see green trees, and sun is coming in the window. And the official start, according to our universe around the Earth, is next week on Wednesday, where the vernal equinox will catch up with us. Well, we are going to sing that vernal equinox in. You notice we have changed our banner to your right. It is the spring banner. So would you please rise as you're willing and able to sing 73, Chant for the Seasons, spring verse. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Sharp the smell of love, bursting in our eyes, the turrets of the tulip. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Greening is the grass, soft upon our brows, the sunlight warm caresses. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us.
We're now going to have our time for all ages, and that means that anybody who would like to come closer to the front of the sanctuary for a story, you can. I'm going to stay up here because I need some cheat sheets. But come on up where you can see. Great. So I always like to bring some friends with me when I do this story. So I brought a couple of friends. Does that sound good? Okay. I'm going to get them right now, okay? They're under the pulpit. Okay, you ready? Oh. You know, this guy and this guy looks like Purple has brought a guest. So, Purple, tell us, who's your friend? His name is George, and he's not my friend. Oh my gosh. You're not my friend. Well, I could tell there was something going on with you guys by your body language. But whatever it is, I'm sure we can work it out. So why don't you start by telling us what's going on? He keeps saying he's Turtle, and I'm Turtle. And he keeps saying he's Turtle, and I'm Turtle. That's because I am Turtle. You're not Turtle, I'm 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 Turtle. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. I think I know what's going on here, don't you? You get it? Yeah. Yeah, so I think I have the solution for you. Okay, good. Tell him that he's not Turtle, I'm Turtle. Tell him that he's not Turtle, I'm Turtle. Okay, now that's not it. You're both right. Both right? But he's not Turtle. He's George. And he's not turtle, he's green. Well, that's true, but you see, George is the color purple, and purple is named purple. So you're both purple in your own way. We're both turtle? That's right, you're both purple. Yay! That means we can be friends again. Yeah! Well, wait a minute now. You're in a Unitarian church, so we're going to have to address this, aren't we? Yeah, you can both be friends even if you're not both purple. What matters is that you're both human-ish. So it shouldn't matter if you're purple or not. You can be purple or green or any other color, or you can be named Purple or George or anything else, and you should be able to be friends. You're right. George, I don't care if you call yourself Turtle, you're still my friend. And I don't care if you call yourself Turtle, even if you are green, you're still my friend too. I'm glad we can both be turtle in our own way. You know, this reminds me of an old song I heard growing up.
One-eyed, purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horned, fine purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horned, fine purple people eater. Sure looks strange to me.
That's terrifying. You mean there's a turtle monster that eats turtle people? Well, I didn't mean to scare you. It was really just a song. He's turtle. No, he's turtle. He's turtle. No, he's turtle. Okay, say goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you. You got it.
Sing them out.
Not yet. We're getting there. We light this second chalice so that as our children and youth go to their chapels, they carry the light of our flame with them. May it illuminate, inspire, and warm you as it does us. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this church and its mission in the wider world.
Thank you both so much. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. I'm going to begin with a candle for Rob Roos and his entire family. Rob's mother passed away last Sunday morning, so please keep them in your thoughts. And also a candle for the people of New Zealand after that terrible shooting earlier this week, and a candle for Muslims everywhere who live in fear and persecution. Let's take a moment of silence, as always, on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and you're welcome to name them aloud if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
For our meditation this morning, I invite you to join me in a responsive litany, which was written by the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, who is the president of the UUA, and Reverend Erica Hewitt, who is a minister of worship arts for the UUA. So I'll read several passages, and after each one, I'd like you to respond with, "No one is outside the circle of love." We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetrated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We, who are Unitarian Universalists, not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we're here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love.
Thank you again, David. I said during the first service, and I'm going to say it again, I hadn't planned on it. We have just really, I think, an extraordinary group of lay leaders that help us each Sunday. And when I came, I emphasized that it's really important to me that if anybody is going to be up here on the stage, that they're up here, not me. So the lay leaders choose and create what they share with you. It's coming from their own heart, their own soul, their own working with the subject and figuring out how they're going to express themselves through words. And again, they all are very talented for a variety of reasons, but I think David really demonstrates tremendous thoughtfulness when he comes and presents the selections that he's chosen. And he doesn't run them by me. We don't get together and plan it. And even though it seems like it fits so well with the service, it's really because David, and like all of our lay leaders, fit so well with our congregation. So I just wanted to thank you again for adding so much. I'm going to reading today a selection from Oscar Romero's The Violence of Love. This is a reading that I've read at least a few times since I've been here. It's my favorite in this collection. He was a Catholic priest before he was assassinated, and a lot of what he says has Christian language, which when I read it, I'm very capable of translating it into my own experience, because that's for me what religion is. It's a language, and you just need to translate it so that you understand it. But it's more difficult to do in reading, so I don't share a lot of the readings out of this very inspirational book, but I would recommend it. It's a great collection called, again, The Violence of Love. But there is an exception, and it just so happens that this is my favorite thing he's written, and so I'm going to share it now. God has sown goodness. No child is born evil. We are all called to holiness. The values that God has sown in the human heart and that present-day people esteem so highly are not rare gems. They are things that appear continually. Why then is there so much evil? Because the evil inclinations of the human heart have corrupted people, and they need purification. The original, pristine human vocation is goodness. We have all been born for goodness. No one is born with inclinations to kidnap. No one is born with inclinations to be a criminal. No one is born to be a torturer. No one is born to be a murderer. We have all been born to be good, to love one another, to understand one another.
The gift to be free.
Thank you all so much. Again, I appreciate it. And thanks for backing me up on Purple People Eater, too. Yeah, that was impromptu on your part. By the way, you know that P is the hardest thing to pronounce with your lips closed. You probably noticed, right? Yeah. I mean, don't ever name a puppet Purple, right? It's just... Next time I want an ironic name for a puppet, I'm going to get a bird and name it Turtle, because you can say turtle without moving your lips. I don't always think ahead. But that's okay, because I'm born okay the first time, right? So I had this coworker, used to have a coworker who didn't consider himself religious in the least, because he said he just couldn't accept any religion's fantastic claims. Yet, he feared a world without it, because he also couldn't imagine what it would be like if people didn't have religion to keep their selfish desires in check. Much like the plethora of Hollywood films envisioning an apocalyptic future in which all manner of anarchy, sadism, and violence break out, the instant civilization and its rules break down, my coworker, who may not have considered himself religious, seems to have bought fully into the doctrine of original sin, the belief, that is, in human depravity, without even realizing it. This assumption is so ubiquitous in our society, as it is in much of the world, that we no longer have to believe in Adam and Eve's disobedience to presume human nature is essentially evil. Long before my coworker upheld the doctrine, even while claiming to be irreligious, President John Adams said something very similar to his good friend Thomas Jefferson. Adams, who was the U.S. president who ratified the Treaty of Tripoli, which states explicitly, the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Told Jefferson it left him so discouraged, he often found himself upon the point of breaking out, "This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it." Yeah, and I say that emphatically because he actually put 3 exclamation marks in his letter to Jefferson. And this was so because, like my coworker, he could not buy into what he called its fictitious miracles and the laws existing even in our Massachusetts at the time, he said, that made it illegal to question the Bible, calling them a great embarrassment and great obstructions to the improvement of the human mind. Nevertheless, also like my coworker, he second-guessed himself, going on to tell Jefferson he feared that without religion, the world would be something not fit to be mentioned in polite company. I mean hell. He said this even though he claimed not to believe in original sin, or what he actually called the total and universal depravity of human nature. Didn't believe in it. But if he didn't believe in it, why did he fear there'd be hell on earth without religion? It's true, people have committed all manner of injustice against each other, as we continue to see, like the horrible event we saw earlier this week in New Zealand. But they often do so in the name of religion, not despite it. Yet when emergencies and disasters strike, we more often rush to help each other, not to exploit each other, whether by helping the neighbors that we know or going to help people we don't know in places that we've never been. When hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes take out our power and destroy our infrastructures, our species doesn't instinctively break into mass looting, raping and pillaging, setting up miniature fiefdoms to control and exploit their neighbors, like we've seen in so many dystopian films. In reality, we rush in with red crosses and red crescents and take up collections and send supplies, even as millions of volunteers from around the world arrive to help. The idea that we need to be controlled because we are innately selfish, violent, savage creatures is an invention that authoritarian tyrants used to justify what deep down they know needs to be justified: their exploitation and dominance of others. Without the order I established, they somehow convinced themselves these depraved creatures would create hell on earth. And this is the meaning of those myths, some of which I mentioned last week, of Uranus casting his own children into Tartarus beneath the crushing weight of the world, and of Kronos swallowing his as they are born, and Zeus swallowing his even before they are born. And it is the reason the church latched on to the myth of original sin as an excuse to forcibly subjugate and rule over everyone in its ever-expanding dominion. Because they believe, as the great philosopher Wilford Brimley used to say about oatmeal, it's the right thing to do. I believe it's precisely because we have to create such extraordinary myths, absurd doctrines, and fictitious miracles to sustain authoritarianism that proves that it isn't natural or necessary. For these are the stories that convince us or excuse us to go against the better angels of our nature by oppressing, exploiting, and dominating others, causing the very kind of cruelties they are supposed to prevent. In our society, loving everyone is too often discouraged, especially those who are most exploited and demonized by the authorities. Those who do love others the way we should, the way we are driven to by our natural instincts, are mocked, ridiculed, belittled, called do-gooders. Being a do-gooder, shame on you. A tree hugger, shame, shame. A bleeding heart. And sometimes criminalized. Sometimes we've been criminalized as sympathizers. Sympathy is a crime. Or persecuted as queer. Loving others, those who are truly other, and that they are unlike us because they have other beliefs, other ways, are coming from other places, is disparaged in an authoritarian society, which uses sacred stories that are not to be questioned to convince us that we can't trust each other because we fundamentally cannot trust ourselves. Ironically, the notion of original sin, which has penetrated deep into the human psyche, even into the unconscious of those who outright reject religion, is not substantiated in the Bible it's supposed to be based upon. Erich Fromm, though an atheist, received a traditional Jewish education, came from a family of rabbis, and reminds us the Old Testament does not take the position of humanity's fundamental corruption. Adam and Eve's disobedience to God are not called sin. Nowhere is there a hint that this disobedience has corrupted humanity. Or as Herbert Haig, a former president of the Catholic Bible Association of Germany, once said, the doctrine of original sin is not found in any of the writings of the Old Testament. Theologian Matthew Fox also insists original blessing is far more ancient and biblical doctrine and ought to be the starting point for spirituality. By original blessing in contrast to original sin, Fox is referring to what he calls the first law of creation. Do you remember what the first law of creation is? All of you Bible scholars? Thank you, Susan. Susan, you go to the head of the class. Yes, it is good. The first law of creation, it is good. And because of that, the tradition is, the biblical tradition, at least the Hebrew tradition, is that we are all born in the image and likeness of God. Unitarianism has been struggling to uplift human goodness and worth since its ancient beginnings at least 2,000 years ago, with the first followers of Jesus who, as Jews, believed in only one God. That's what Unitarianism is. One God. Trinitarianism wouldn't be fully born and officially adopted for almost another 400 years. Yet Unitarianism, as an early Christian phenomenon, does differ in one significant way from Jewish monotheism. Unitarianism, because of its belief in one God, cannot accept the divinity of Jesus or the divinity of Christ. Instead, it embraces the humanity of Jesus. Alas, after the teachings of Rabbi Jesus and his oppressed Jewish followers were misappropriated by the Roman Empire, it became illegal to claim that he was only human. And the Unitarian belief in only one God was replaced by this incomprehensible and inexplicable idea of a Trinity, that one God equals three, or three gods equal one. And I have had like several calculators. I've tried it on every calculator I've ever had. It does not work. It just doesn't add up. 1,000 years later, after the invention of the printing press made it possible for people to start reading the Bible for themselves, Unitarianism was rediscovered in Eastern Europe, and with it, a belief in Jesus' humanity. It was adopted there by Hungarian King John Sigismund, who appointed a Unitarian theologian, Francis David, as bishop of his kingdom. Together they established a freedom of religion law that gave people the right to believe whatever they wanted, to believe and say whatever they wanted. It was called the Edict of Torda of 1568. Tragically, after Sigismund's untimely death, the new authorities passed an innovation law, or actually an innovation prohibition, that made it illegal to express new ideas. When the ousted bishop, it sounds like a strange law, but we pressure each other not to express new ideas all the time. Right? Not only conservatives do that, but progressives, liberals do too. Not me. I don't like it from anyone. When the ousted bishop, Francis David, began saying that infant baptism should be abolished and that it's wrong to pray to Christ, since he wasn't God, he was sentenced to life in prison, where he languished and died within just 6 months. The belief in Jesus' humanity was not only consistent among Unitarians, it consistently got us in trouble. Jumping ahead to New England in the 1740s, Unitarian ideas again came under attack during what is considered or called by historians a period of Christian revivalism. Revivals, you guys remember or probably seen or heard of the old tent revivals? Well, revivalism is based upon having a conversion experience, meaning that a person has to be born again, usually through some public profession of faith. The New Birth movement, as it was called then, was again rooted in this notion of human depravity, right? Original sin, that there is something fundamentally wrong with all of us to begin with, and therefore our souls need to be crushed or swallowed the moment we are born by some external authority, washed clean in the blood of the Lamb, so that we can be reborn in the likeness of whoever hangs us out to dry. Such revivalism ran counter to a budding American Unitarianism as expressed by ministers like Charles Chauncey, a Harvard-educated pastor of Boston's First Church for 60 years. A staunch opponent of the Great Awakening, Chauncey taught that there should be a commitment to logic and reason, a critical and historical analysis of the Bible, and that moral behavior ought to be the point of the Christian religion. Not what we believe, not what we think, what we do. These are the same principles that Unitarians are still arguing today. Back then, in further opposition to the New Birth movement, Chauncey and others further argued that human beings aren't born fundamentally flawed, but with the capacity for both sin and righteousness, as he wrote. The point being that we don't have to be born again or saved or converted because we are born okay the first time. With the capacity that is, to do good completely on our own, without the need for a Uranus or Cronus or Zeus or Yahweh or any king or any pope to reform our minds in order to control our behaviors. In the 1740s, this belief in original goodness was called Arminianism, which historians consider the precursor to what would eventually become American Unitarianism. 100 years later, for instance, this belief in human goodness, or rather the disbelief in human depravity, was exposed by the Unitarian minister John Haynes Holmes, who was among the very first ministers promoting the social gospel, the idea that religion is not about saving souls, but about benefiting society. Holmes, in particular, advocated that religion should be completely free from what he called the supernatural and the miraculous, and should instead focus on the social well-being of all people. He was so impressed by the efforts of Gandhi in India going on at the same time that in one of his sermons he called him the greatest man in the world and said, "When I think of Gandhi, I think of Jesus." Historian David Robinson reminds us that Gandhi's reputation in America began with Holmes' sermon. In the early 1900s, one of Holmes' younger associates, a Universalist preacher named Clarence Skinner, also began emphasizing the social gospel. He even wrote a declaration of social principles and social program that was adopted by the Universalist General Convention of 1917, and explicitly rejected the idea of inherent depravity, stating that mankind is led into sin by evil surroundings, by the evils of unjust social and economic systems. It went on to call for our basic right as human beings to own land, as the equal rights for women, freedom of speech, some form of social security for everyone, and believe it or not, a global government guaranteeing these same rights for all people. In his book, Liberalism Faces the Future, Skinner said the starting point of liberalism must be a sense that at the core of human nature is something good and sound, an inherent moral capacity to choose the right. As Unitarianism in particular moved west, away from New England and our Boston headquarters, it became increasingly more humanistic and less theistic. I think that's relatively true to this day. When the Unitarian Society, as our church was called back then, was first formed here in Spokane in 1887, our church bylaws stated, "The authority for its belief is reason. The method of finding its beliefs is scientific. Its aim is to crush superstition and establish facts of religion. And its first principle is freedom of opinion and is subject to no censure or heresy." Of course, having joined with the Universalist in 1961, it's unlikely we'd use such a harsh term as crush superstition in our bylaws today. Now we have to be nice to everyone. But even our wish to be nice to everyone suggests the assumption that everyone is worth treating nicely. That everyone has worth and dignity, as we say, that all human beings are worthy of respect and kindness. Of course, we are particularly proud that our Spokane church is the birthplace of religious humanism. For it was here the father of religious humanism, John H. Dietrich, first began defining himself as such, as a humanist. He came to us, his first Unitarian congregation, in 1911, after having been convicted of heresy and defrocked by the Dutch Reformed Church, which he had previously served in Pennsylvania. It was here, within the context of a church that embraced a convicted heretic's worth and dignity, with a desire to crush superstition, that he read a word in a book lent to him by one of our members: humanism. That's me, he realized. That's what I am. Dietrich went on to become one of the 13 signers of the original Humanist Manifesto, 6 of whom were Unitarian ministers. And when I think about all of this, of our Unitarian history in particular, it seems obvious to me that humanism would inevitably be born from our religion. It evolved from an original Christian belief in and insistence upon a human Jesus and his humanitarian teachings, was reawakened in the 16th century by a king who made freedom of conscience and free speech the law of the land, and a bishop who said, "Wait until you're grown up to be baptized so you can choose religion for yourself, and stop praying to Christ for God's sake." He's a man just like a man or a human being just like you. Later still, in New England and then in the U.S., a growing expectation that religion ought to exist for the purpose of human welfare and a belief in the inherent goodness and potential in all people led a heretic to finally give birth to that child whose crown could be seen poking through the light for 2,000 years: humanism. Now, this all sounds interesting from a historical perspective, but what does it really mean for us today? How can the humanistic tradition inherent within Unitarianism positively impact us now? Firstly, I hope it remains a driving force in our religious lives and pursuits. Unitarianism is rooted in three principles: reason, freedom of conscience, and humanism. As we put our faith into practice by not worshiping, or put our faith into practice not by worshiping a God or blindly following someone else's rule book, we ought to remember that religion is about making society and ultimately the world a better and more just place for everyone. This means treating each other reasonably, and that our beliefs be well reasoned and factually supported. That's the polite way of saying we should crush superstition. We must also work to assure everyone, those we agree with, and most importantly, those we disagree with, can not only express themselves, but can live beside us as our neighbors. Work with us where we labor. Enjoy the same rights as us wherever they choose to roam. And dine with us as guests at our tables. Finally, it means recognizing that we are all born okay the first time. That none of us needs to be saved because we're inherently good. This last one is the hard part. Because like my co-worker and President John Adams, ancient church doctrines have gotten into our unconscious psyches even if we don't consider ourselves traditionally religious. This causes us to mistrust others, to presume they must be up to no good because they are selfish, greedy beasts by nature. It makes us feel that we are mostly alone in a world of big bad wolves and mustn't talk to strangers as we hurry through the dangerous thicket on our way to Grandma's house. I know how difficult this is because I too once existed in this matrix, with my spidey senses always on high alert, always ready to do battle with the windmills I mistook for giants. But as I've become more humanistic in my approach to living, I understand the windmills before me, including the big corporations and the big businesses and big institutions and big governments. Guess what? They all have human beings dwelling in them. And those human beings are inherently good and always ready to do what good they can. And knowing this gives me great hope, because I know I am not alone in the woods. Nor am I naive. I know there are people in this world who have not fully unfolded as human beings and in their incompleteness express themselves in harmful ways. Yet even within these underdeveloped ones, there is a capacity to reach greater human heights, just as within the best of us there is the capacity to sometimes falter. But mostly when I consider the world that I live in, I see a world with billions of people who are good-hearted and care about the welfare of others. We are everywhere. We are the majority. And this is so, I believe, because we have all been born okay the first time. Thank you.
We're going to end with a song from a woman who actually came here not too long after we moved into the building. Her name is Libby Roderick, and she wrote a lovely song that's in our turquoise hymnal. It's called How Could Anyone? And please rise as you're willing and able to sing this lovely song to each of us.
You were less than whole. How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Our benediction this morning also comes from the Reverend Erica Hewitt. The hand in yours belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, and whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand that you hold belongs to a person who is seeking wholeness and who trusts that you are doing the same. As you leave this sanctuary, may your hearts remain open, may your voices stay strong, and may your hands remain outstretched. Amen. Blessed be. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.